Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a 9-game NBA slate for you. Before I get started, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? It really helps the channel. Do keep in mind that the last game of the day, which starts at 10 o'clock, is not included on the slate. On other websites, it will probably be included, so do keep that in mind. With that said, we do have an extensive injury report. Um, so let's go ahead and get into that first. So for the Timberwolves, Edwards is questionable. For the Pistons, Cunningham is out. For the Magic, Franz Wagner and Gary Harris are out. For the Hawks, Hunter is out. For the Spurs, Barlow is questionable and Collins is out. For the Celtics, Porzingis, White, and Holiday are all questionable. For the Cavaliers, Mobley and Garland remain out, and Levert is questionable. For the Rockets, Eason is out. Brunson is questionable. For the Rockets, Eason is out. For the Knicks, Brunson and Hart are questionable, and Robinson is out. For the Heat, Jaquez Jr. and Love are out. For the Raptors, Trent Jr. is questionable and Podol is out. For the Hornets, Miller is questionable and Williams and Hayward are out. For the Mavericks, Doncic is questionable and Exum is out. For the Lakers, LeBron is questionable and Reddish and Vincent are out. And for the Warriors, Chris Paul and Moody are both out. So lots of injuries there, lots of questionable tags that we'll have to wait and see on. But we do have some good plays today. I don't love this slate as the value plays are really rough. And the expensive plays don't really fit very well either because of the way the matchups are. We have some pretty low scoring games on the slate. In fact, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 games under 230 points, but we also have uh, 3 games over 238. So we have some high scoring games and some low scoring games. Unfortunately, the pricing is not great today, so I'm not loving it, but we should have an interesting slate regardless. This slate definitely feels a lot more like some of the slates last week, which we did well in, so there's definitely a possibility of really solid opportunity here. However, we do need to find out on these questionable tags, and if we can get some some of those guys ruled out, that would definitely open up some value on the Celtics and Mavericks especially. So let's keep that in mind here. So let's go ahead and get into our top plays. Now, I don't have any core plays right now, and quite honestly, I just don't love anybody, and I try to really love somebody to put them as a core play. So right now, I don't really, but I do like my top 5 plays quite a bit. We'll start with Sengun for Houston. Now, the question here is that he's got in one of the slowest paced games of the slate. Though he's been solid for a while, his price has also come down, and he's a little bit below where he normally gets in the in the low to mid 40s in fantasy perspective. He's at $7,900, so he needs 39.5 fantasy points to 5x. The risk here is the low scoring game, though it should remain close as it looks like a 5-point spread for the Knicks. I do think that he has some potential today, especially with Eason out. He's going to get more slightly more run. That helps Houston a little bit from the starters getting more run as a result of him being one of their better 6-man type players. That said, I think he's been solid enough for a while that he has some utility here. And the Knicks are not at full strength either, so it's possible that helps Houston keep the game close. Then we're going to look at a Banchero for Orlando. Now, they have a very up-tempo game here against Atlanta. This bodes well for them. He's also had a very good season throughout the year, and he's got nice upside here. The last few games are a bit mixed, but he has good potential in this game, and I think he's a viable option, though he has had a lower floor than I'd like at his price point. This game does feature a pretty good total, though, especially because Atlanta's playing and they play virtually no defense and they run real fast. And with some of the guys in questionable or out for the Magic, he's going to have plenty of usage in this one, and he definitely looks like a pretty solid option. Looking at Donovan Mitchell, he's a little bit more expensive than the 2 guys I've already mentioned, but he's got a good matchup against Milwaukee, who has been playing at a higher tempo, and this game does have a high total and a tight game. And with Mobley and Garland both out, Donovan Mitchell should have plenty of upside. Obviously, he does have those random floor games where he'll just not do much, but I think this is a great matchup for him, and I think he's going to have a pretty good game, especially with the being short-handed, especially if Levert was to miss, that would even boost him a little bit more. Looking at Lauri Markkanen for Utah, he's one of the guys that I've really thought about making a core play, so to keep that in mind. He's had a really high ceiling recently, and his price has been down, which is definitely helpful. He's been pretty good throughout the season, as you can see, but he's really hitting a strong curve lately, and he's also got a great matchup against the Warriors. Even though Draymond Green is back, he's not going to be playing a ton of minutes, and he shouldn't have much effect on Markkanen's potential here. Looking at Jason Tatum for the Celtics, this play definitely has a lot of upside, assuming that anybody is ruled out for the Celtics. But even if they aren't, he's still a great play as he's their most consistent player and he has a high ceiling. I don't necessarily think his ceiling is as high as it is in some games because this game does have some potential of a blowout. But it's definitely good enough to be viable here, and he's under 10K, which is definitely a helpful thing with him as well. I do like his potential in this game, and he has some nice upside. I'm going to get in some value plays now. We're going to look at Jalen Green for Houston. Now, I don't love the matchup here, but he's priced down some, and that does give him some upside, as he's only needing 29 fantasy points to pay off. And with the exception of a couple really silly games, he's had some really solid potential. And this game should be relatively close. It's only a 5-point spread for the Knicks. And in games like this, he tends to do pretty well. He definitely does need to score a decent amount of points to pay off, but he's definitely capable of that in this one. And I think Houston's going to remain tight in this game. So he looks like a pretty solid play. This is where it gets a little bit more dicey. D'Angelo Russell is in play for the Lakers. Now, he's been inconsistent throughout the season, but the last two games he's played over 35 minutes. He's been battling some issues and stuff, but he is back to starting. And if he is going to continue to start and play 30 plus minutes, he's going to have that upside as he has got a lot of potential here. His price has also come down a lot, which gives him a lot of utility, but you do want to check to make sure he's in the starting lineup, and he does look like he's going to play that minutes. Looking at Klay Thompson, he's been kind of inconsistent throughout the year. He's very scoring dependent right now, and while Chris Paul is out, he gets more minutes as a result. As you can see throughout the season, he's been in the 25 to 30 minute range quite a bit, with occasional uptick games. But the last three, he's been over 30 minutes, and in two of those, he's been solid. The question here is if he can get the shots needed. But I think he will today against Utah, but it's still a riskier play. But it's one of the highest scoring games on the slate, so he definitely has some potential. And with Paul and Moody both out, he should have plenty of opportunity to have a good game here. Then we're going to get some super value plays, and Joe Ingles for the Magic. Now, he's going to play around 20 minutes today. Obviously, he's been up and down throughout the season as he's not a starter, but he does play inconsistent minutes sometimes. However, I do expect him to have more opportunity in this game because Orlando has some guys that are out in Franz Wagner and Gary Harris, and he should get that around 20 minutes again. He's definitely capable of having a big game. His price is also dirt cheap, which helps. And he definitely has that 30 fantasy point upside as he's managed that several times throughout the season in these types of situations. He just needs to get the minutes, but he's nice and cheap, though he definitely carries that Hail Mary tag because he definitely has an extremely low floor. Looking at Jonathan Isaac, I was a little surprised that I liked him as much because he's been relatively consistent, though he doesn't have the high floor that that Joe Ingles has, but he's playing a similar minute structure the last few games where he's increased his minutes some, and he's doing some good peripheral stats, which is really helping his fantasy potential. Now, he hasn't had a big game in a while, but he's a guy that you could probably put in that probably won't kill you, but he definitely carries a lot of risk as this high risk, high reward here. And when you're looking at Hail Mary plays that are under $4,000, you're going to have to really be careful with these guys. But Ingles and Isaac both are on an up-tempo game, and they both have some potential to get at least 18 or so minutes. So, yeah, that is kind of scraping the bottom of the barrel with those two, but I just wanted to mention them because they do have that potential to have big, solid games. As for the Boston Celtics, with three guys questionable, there would be some value opening up if any of those guys are out. Pritchard would get a boost if Holiday or White is out, and Hauser would and Horford would also get a boost if Porzingis is out. Hauser would get a boost basically if any of those three are out. Looking at the Mavericks, if Doncic misses again, then basically everybody on the team will get a boost. With that said, Tim Hardaway Jr. and Kyrie Irving would definitely be the best plays on the team from that perspective. So, as such, this slate is pretty rough, but I do think there's some ways that you can run it, especially if we get some information on some of these questionable tags early enough. With the two latest games on the slate having a lot of the questionable tags with the Lakers and Dallas, and that definitely is a concern, but these games do have the highest scoring totals on the slate outside of the Atlanta games. So I do think it's an interesting slate, and I think it's going to be a viable one to have a pretty good outcome. However, like I said at the beginning, I just didn't have a lot of core plays because I couldn't find anybody that I just jumped off the page. It's like, yeah, that guy's going to be good, and we don't have to worry about worrying about him. So, with that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below. And have a nice day, guys.